The ruins of the city stretched endlessly under the pale light of the two suns. Skyscrapers, once shining towers of glass and steel, now lay broken, jagged skeletons, their hollow windows staring like empty eyes. Dust swirled across the cracked streets, carrying the smell of scorched metal and burnt ozone. Captain Aiden Cross moved carefully through the rubble, his boots crunching against shattered concrete and twisted rebar. Every shadow could hide an enemy, every alley a trap. Yet he moved with calm precision, the kind that came only from years of surviving impossible situations. He had been alone on this planet for days, hunting a small group of rogue mercenaries who had attacked a human mining colony. But now something felt different. The air carried a strange tension, a sense that something or someone was watching him. He adjusted the strap of his weapon pack and scanned the horizon. Among the ruined towers, a figure darted between shadows. Aiden's eyes narrowed. She was moving with purpose, not like a scavenger or another mercenary. She was running from something. His instincts kicked in. He followed, silent as a shadow, keeping his distance. The figure paused at the base of a collapsed building, crouching low, trying to catch her breath. "Hey!" Aiden called softly, raising a hand. "You need help." She was smaller than he expected, slender but strong-looking, with silver hair that shimmered in the sunlight. Her eyes, wide and alert, were a deep violet, reflecting a mixture of fear and defiance. She was not human, and yet there was something unmistakably royal in the way she carried herself, even in flight. I need protection," she said, her voice trembling. "They're after me. Please, can you help me? If I die, everything falls apart." Humans were considered weak by most civilizations, predictable and fragile. Yet here she was, asking for his protection. She had no idea. "I can," he said simply, "but you'll need to trust me, and you'll need to move fast. They won't wait." She nodded slowly. "All right, I trust you." They were searching for her. Aiden didn't hesitate. "Run!" he shouted, and together they sprinted across the rubble-strewn streets. Lyra struggled to keep up, her light frame making her quick but tiring her out. Aiden stayed by her side, encouraging her. "Keep going, almost there," he called. They ducked into a collapsed building, moving through the narrow corridors until they found a small skiff hidden among the debris. Aiden quickly examined the controls. Alien technology was complex, but he had learned to adapt. A few adjustments here and there, a push of a lever, and the engines roared to life. "Get in," he said. Lyra obeyed, sliding into the passenger seat, her hands gripping the edges tightly. The skiff lifted off, rising above the shattered city just as the rebel ships closed in. Aiden maneuvered through the ruins, weaving between towers and debris. Lyra clung to the seat, her fear evident. "How are you doing this?" she asked, astonished. Aiden glanced at her, his smile faint. "Human ingenuity. We're underestimated, but we adapt. We survive." Lyra finally allowed herself a moment to breathe. I don't know how to thank you," she said softly. Aiden shook his head. "No need for thanks, just stay alive, that's all that matters." "You haven't seen anything yet." Aiden kept his focus on the path ahead, scanning for threats, plotting their route to safety. He had survived countless battles, seen countless worlds fall, but there was something different about this mission. Protecting a princess, navigating alien politics, surviving rebel attacks, it was more than just survival. It was a chance to show that humans, often underestimated, could rise above expectations. Hours passed. Lyra attempted to make conversation, asking questions about Earth, about humans, about how Aiden had come to be in the galaxy. He answered sparingly, offering glimpses of human resilience and adaptability. She listened intently, fascinated by stories of courage and creativity. Each story seemed to reinforce what she had begun to realize, that humans were not weak. Suddenly, the skiff shuddered. Aiden's eyes narrowed. "We're not alone," he muttered. Sensors detected a larger ship approaching, one that could easily overpower them if it caught up. Lyra's heart raced. "What do we do?" she asked, panic rising. Aiden's expression was calm. "We improvise. Stay low and trust me." Every move he made was precise, efficient, and daring. When they finally cleared the field, Lyra spoke, her voice trembling with awe. You're incredible. I don't understand how a human can be this capable." Lyra looked at him, the first real trust forming between them. She had faced betrayal, attacks, and fear, yet here she felt protected. For the first time since the rebellion began, she allowed herself a glimmer of hope. Aiden broke the silence. "We're not safe yet. There's a place we can land, a station where we can hide for a while. It's neutral territory, but it's far from here. We'll get there." But one thing was clear. Humanity's strength was not in muscle alone, nor in numbers, but in courage, ingenuity, and the unyielding will to survive. And Aiden Cross embodied all of it. Lyra, once doubtful and afraid, realized that asking a human to defend her was the best choice she could have made. She had no idea what she had unleashed. And Aiden. He knew this mission would test every skill he had, every instinct honed over a lifetime. But he also knew humans had a way of surprising the galaxy, and this time he would show just how strong they could be. The skiff sped forward, the light of distant stars glinting off its hull. Ahead lay uncertainty, danger, and battles yet to come. But for the first time in weeks, Princess Lyra felt safe. And the human by her side smiled, ready for whatever the universe dared to throw at them next. The skiff hummed steadily as it sliced through the dark expanse of space. Stars stretched like silver threads across the black canvas, and distant planets glowed faintly, their light barely touching the vessel. Inside, Princess Lyra clutched the armrest, her knuckles white. She had been through attacks and ambushes before, but never like this. A human was protecting her, one who seemed to thrive in chaos, who moved with a calm certainty that unsettled and fascinated her all at once. Aiden Cross, seated at the controls, did not glance at her. His eyes scanned every sensor, every blip on the dashboard. Every sound of the skiff, every vibration, was a piece of information he absorbed without thought. His mind worked faster than the skiff's engines, plotting trajectories, anticipating attacks, and always finding a way to stay one step ahead. Lyra broke the silence first. "How are you so calm?" she asked, her voice trembling. "We were almost caught, and yet you moved like it was just another day." Humans were considered weak by her people, clever in small ways but physically fragile and prone to panic. Yet here was one who seemed to defy every expectation. She remembered the ambush, the rebel ships closing in, and how he had navigated the ruined city as if he had known it for years. It was remarkable. "I thought humans were small, weak, easy to defeat," she admitted quietly. Aiden's gaze sharpened. "We're underestimated, always underestimated. That's why we survive. That's why we win when no one expects it." Yet here in front of her was evidence that the galaxy had been wrong. The skiff began to pass through a field of asteroids, their jagged edges looming close. Sensors detected movement ahead. Aiden's fingers moved over the controls with practiced precision. "Rebel blockade," he muttered. "They're testing the route. We'll have to be clever to get through. They have more ships, more weapons, more everything." They moved through the asteroid field, weapons primed, sensors searching. Aiden tilted the skiff, narrowly avoiding a massive asteroid that would have crushed them. Lyra's stomach lurched, and she gripped the armrest even tighter. "You're incredible," she said through clenched teeth. "I've never seen anything like this. Stick with me and you'll see plenty more." A miscalculated turn would have meant destruction, yet he moved like a conductor, orchestrating their survival with skill and instinct. The blockade shifted, trying to predict their path. Aiden's eyes flicked to the sensors and then to Lyra. "I need you to trust me completely for the next maneuver." She had begun to sense the truth. Humans were not just physically capable. Their strength lay in creativity, in quick thinking, and in adaptability. She had no choice but to trust him. With a swift motion, Aiden brought the skiff down into the asteroid field, weaving through narrow tunnels between massive rocks. The rebel ships attempted to follow, but their larger size and slower reaction time made it impossible. One by one, they crashed or were forced to retreat. Lyra exhaled, a mixture of relief and astonishment flooding her chest. "I can't believe you did that. They were impossible." Humans see opportunities where others see obstacles. His strength was not just in his body, it was in his mind, his instincts, his ability to turn danger into opportunity. She had asked him to protect her, thinking it was a small favor, but she now understood that she had been handed a shield forged from determination, skill, and ingenuity. Finally, Lyra broke the silence again. "Tell me about humans," she said. "I want to understand why you are like this. How do you survive when everyone expects you to fail?" "That's why we survive, and sometimes why we win." Suddenly, the skiff shuddered violently. Lyra grabbed the seat as the control panel flashed red. Aiden's hands flew over the controls, adjusting the engines and sensors. "Ambush," he shouted. "Rebel fighters closing in fast. Stick with me and follow my lead." Lyra's fear gradually transformed into awe. She watched as he controlled the skiff with a precision and calm that seemed impossible. Each maneuver was daring, almost reckless, yet perfectly executed. By the time they emerged from the nebula, the pursuing ships had lost track of them entirely. Lyra exhaled deeply, her hands trembling. I don't understand how you did that. You made it look easy. She realized she had placed her trust in the right hands, even if she didn't fully understand him yet. The station appeared ahead, a massive structure orbiting a small, uninhabited planet. Lights glimmered along its hull, welcoming travelers and trade ships. Aiden guided the skiff toward a docking bay, scanning for security and potential threats. Almost there, he said. Once we land, we can plan our next move. That's human strength. Each step was deliberate, calculated, precise. She realized that every story she had heard about humans being fragile and weak was wrong. Humans were clever, adaptable, and unstoppable when it mattered most. Finally, they reached a small, private chamber where they could rest. Lyra sank into a chair, exhausted, but her mind raced with thoughts. I don't know what I would have done without you, she said quietly. Aiden leaned against the wall, scanning the room for eavesdroppers. You'd be alive, he said simply. Humans find a way, we always do. And in that moment, she understood that the universe had underestimated humans in a way that could cost many civilizations dearly. And Aiden, he knew the journey was far from over. The rebellion was still strong, the danger far from gone. But for now, he had ensured one small victory, keeping a princess alive and reminding the galaxy that human strength was not to be underestimated. The neutral station was quiet, its metallic corridors humming softly under the dim lights. Princess Lyra followed Captain Aiden Cross as he led her through a maze of passageways. Every step he took seemed measured, calculated, yet effortless. Lyra marveled at how he moved, blending strength with subtlety, agility with precision. She had watched humans from afar, always expecting them to be weaker, slower, fragile, but this human was different. He was extraordinary. They entered a small chamber that overlooked a hangar bay filled with ships from countless species. Aiden gestured for Lyra to sit. Rest for a moment. We need a plan, he said. His eyes scanned the room, noting exits, security points, and even the subtle vibrations in the walls. Lyra felt safe, more than she had in weeks, even though the danger had not truly passed. I don't understand, Lyra said, her voice quiet. You were incredible back there. The blockade, the ambush, you handled everything perfectly. How do you do it? Yet you make it look effortless. It's not just skill, it's something else. They were closer than anyone had expected. Aiden's expression sharpened. They found us, he muttered. Time to test more than our piloting skills. Stay close. The remaining rebels hesitated, unsure of how to engage someone so calm, so precise. Lyra noticed how he used the environment. He slid behind corners, pushed over crates, and even used wall panels as shields. Each move was clever, unexpected, and highly effective. She tried to mimic his actions, ducking and firing when necessary, but quickly realized she was no match for his speed and foresight. Trust your instincts, Aiden shouted. Humans survive because we don't just fight, we think. Aiden led her through a series of twists and turns, bringing them into a maintenance area. Pipes crisscrossed overhead, sparking occasionally, and machinery hummed in the background. The rebels followed, but Aiden had already set traps. With a flick of his wrist, he released a cloud of smoke from an overhead vent. The rebels coughed and stumbled blindly, giving Aiden and Lyra time to strike. Lyra watched as he moved, hand to hand and with weapons, taking down multiple opponents at once. He used their momentum against them, twisting and throwing, sometimes even lifting heavier opponents off the ground with ease. She could hardly believe her eyes. Humans were supposed to be weaker, but here Aiden's strength and agility surpassed her expectations. One rebel lunged at her. Instinctively, Lyra raised her pistol, but the agent was faster. Aiden reacted instantly, spinning and delivering a precise strike that sent the assailant crashing into a wall. Lyra blinked, her fear mixing with awe. How can one person do this? She whispered. Aiden didn't answer, only moved to cover her as they pressed forward. Each rebel they encountered was met with the same efficiency, calculated strikes, improvised defenses, and a constant awareness of their surroundings. Lyra began to understand that his strength wasn't just in muscle, it was in his mind. Every move was a plan, every action deliberate. Humans were underestimated because no one expected them to combine intelligence with courage in such a way. After clearing the maintenance area, they reached a small hangar filled with spare ships. We need to move fast, Aiden said. We can't stay here, they'll be sending reinforcements. Overcome. Lyra felt herself gripping the seat, her knuckles white, yet strangely exhilarated. Hold on, Aiden said. This next part will get tricky. Lyra gasped as Aiden tilted the skiff, narrowly avoiding a massive overhead beam that would have crushed them. Each movement was daring, precise, and calculated, proof of human ingenuity in the face of overwhelming odds. Finally, they reached an emergency exit bay. Aiden triggered the release, sending the skiff shooting through the station's outer hull and into open space. Rebel ships attempted to follow, but the skiff's speed and his knowledge of evasive maneuvers kept them out of reach. Lyra leaned back, trembling with relief and awe. You are incredible," she said quietly. "I've never seen anyone move like that, fight like that, think like that. We survive when others don't, because we think, adapt, and refuse to quit." Humans were strong, clever, and capable in ways the galaxy could not predict. As they traveled through open space, Lyra asked, "Do all humans fight like you?" Yet here was proof to the contrary. A single human standing against impossible odds, protecting a princess, and outthinking enemies who had far more resources. She began to understand why humans had survived against countless civilizations, why they could accomplish feats that others deemed impossible. Hours passed as they navigated through asteroid belts and debris fields. Aiden used every advantage of the terrain, employing clever maneuvers to keep them safe. Lyra tried to keep up mentally, observing how he anticipated every move, adjusted to every change, and stayed one step ahead. She realized that human strength was not brute force. It was intelligence, creativity, and courage combined. Finally, they reached a small, hidden planet suitable for temporary refuge. Its surface was rocky, with jagged cliffs and caves providing natural cover. Aiden guided the skiff to a landing area, carefully avoiding detection by any satellites or patrols. They stepped out onto solid ground. The air was thin but breathable, and the wind carried the scent of minerals and distant water. Lyra stretched, feeling a sense of relief and gratitude she hadn't felt in weeks. "You saved me again," she said softly, looking at him with awe. I don't know how to repay you." She had been a princess used to having others fight for her, yet now she saw a different kind of strength, one that came not from armies or titles, but from courage, ingenuity, and determination. She realized that humans had a power that could not be measured in numbers or weapons alone. As night fell over the rocky planet, Lyra watched the stars. She had faced betrayal, fear, and pursuit, yet here she was, alive and safe, thanks to a human who had defied every expectation. She realized that she had underestimated humans all her life, and she knew deep down that the galaxy would soon learn the same lesson. Aiden set up a temporary shelter, checking weapons and systems while Lyra rested. "We're not safe yet," he said quietly. "But we're alive, that's the first step. We'll need to plan carefully for what comes next." As they settled in for the night, Lyra's thoughts wandered. She had asked a human to defend her, thinking it would be a simple act. But she now understood that she had placed her fate in the hands of someone extraordinary, someone who embodied everything humans could be, clever, courageous, and unyielding. And Aiden, he watched the stars, already planning their next move. The rebels were still out there, the danger far from over. But he knew one thing for certain: humans always find a way. The rocky planet faded into the distance as the skiff lifted off. Princess Lyra sat beside Captain Aiden Cross, her eyes scanning the stars, thinking of her home. The Zelari capital lay light years away, a shining beacon of her empire. Yet now it was under siege, threatened by the rebels who sought to take the throne. Lyra's heart ached for her people. She had fled to survive, but survival was not enough. She had to return to protect her home, to reclaim what had been stolen. Aiden noticed her gaze. "We can't go in blindly," he said quietly. "The capital is heavily defended and the rebels will expect us. We need a plan that uses what we have, not what we wish we had." Hours later, they reached the outskirts of the Zelari system. The capital's golden towers glimmered in the distance, partially shielded by energy barriers. Rebel forces swarmed around the city in orbit, their ships forming a blockade that threatened to crush any incoming fleet. Lyra's breath caught in her throat. "It's worse than I imagined," she whispered. Aiden scanned the patterns of the rebel ships. "It looks bad, but it's not hopeless. They have numbers, yes, but they lack creativity. Humans can make the impossible happen. But the key is to force them to fight on our terms, not theirs. That's where humans shine." Lyra watched in awe as he guided them through the chaos of war, proving once again that humans could achieve what others considered impossible. When they reached the capital, the city was in chaos. Rebel troops had breached the lower sectors, skirmishes flared in the streets, and civilians were caught in the middle. Lyra felt a pang of guilt and fear. She had survived, but her people were still in danger. Aiden's voice broke through her thoughts. We can help, but we have to be smart. We can't face them head-on. They have the advantage in numbers and firepower. We fight clever, not loud. We create decoys, ambush points, and use the terrain to our advantage. The rebels think they're in control, but we'll make them second-guess every step. Others would guard civilians, creating safe zones. The rest would strike with precision, targeting leadership and communication lines. The first clash began near the central plaza. Rebel soldiers advanced confidently, expecting to overwhelm the city, but Aiden's plan unfolded flawlessly. Hidden traps disabled vehicles, ambush points eliminated key targets, and decoy teams drew rebels into carefully prepared zones. The humans' strategies transformed the streets into a labyrinth of danger for the invaders. Lyra watched as Aiden moved among the fighters, guiding them with calm authority. He intervened where necessary, his strength and skill turning the tide in critical moments. He lifted heavy debris to block pathways, used enemy weapons against them, and coordinated attacks with a precision that left even the seasoned Zelari soldiers in awe. Rebel commanders grew frustrated. They could not anticipate the humans' moves. Every step they took led to another setback. Lyra saw their confidence falter. For the first time, humans' unpredictability was more dangerous than sheer force. Aiden paused for a moment, surveying the battlefield. Lyra noticed how he thought in layers, anticipating reactions, predicting counters, and constantly adapting. She realized that human ingenuity was a weapon far more potent than any laser cannon or battle drone. As the battle continued, Aiden led a small team to intercept a squad attempting to capture a key communications hub. The rebels were heavily armed, but Aiden's tactics turned their strength into a weakness. He guided his team through narrow alleyways, using the environment to their advantage. He disabled heavy weapons with precise strikes, outmaneuvered larger opponents, and used misdirection to split enemy forces. Lyra could hardly keep up, but she followed, learning to trust his instincts completely. At one point, a massive rebel mech blocked their path. It towered over them, weapons ready to fire. Lyra froze. "We can't take that," she exclaimed. Aiden's eyes narrowed. "We don't fight it the way they expect." With a burst of strength, he lifted a massive metal beam from a nearby building and slammed it onto the mech, disrupting its systems. The rebels controlling it panicked, and the team seized the opportunity to disable it completely. Lyra gasped. Humans were stronger than she had ever imagined, not just in body, but in resourcefulness. The battle raged on through the streets. Lyra's forces, inspired by Aiden's courage and brilliance, fought with renewed determination. Each ambush, each clever maneuver drained the rebels' morale. What had seemed like an impossible situation now shifted in their favor. By midday, the rebels were forced to retreat from the lower sectors. Aiden and Lyra coordinated a counterattack, reclaiming territory block by block. The princess felt a surge of hope. Humans, she realized, were more than just survivors. They were catalysts, capable of turning the tide of any battle through courage, intellect, and willpower. Aiden paused atop a ruined tower looking over the city. "We're not done yet," he said. "The rebellion still has leaders hiding in the upper sectors. We need to be precise. We can't waste lives." They moved through the upper city, encountering rebel leaders attempting to regroup. Aiden anticipated every move, countering attacks with clever tactics that left enemies bewildered. Lyra witnessed him use the environment, enemy weapons, and even their own overconfidence against them. The human's strength lay in his unpredictability, his creativity, and his unbreakable resolve. Finally, they reached the palace gates. Rebel leaders had fortified the entrance, hoping to hold out until reinforcements arrived. Aiden assessed the situation. "We don't storm it," he said. "We trick them into exposing themselves." When the rebels emerged to confront what they thought was a weak attack, they found themselves surrounded, outsmarted, and overpowered. Within minutes, the palace gates were secured, and the remaining rebels surrendered or fled. Lyra felt a mixture of relief and awe. Her home was safe, her people were alive, and the rebellion had been stopped, not by sheer numbers, but by human ingenuity and courage. She turned to Aiden, gratitude and admiration shining in her eyes. "I had no idea humans could be this powerful." That's why we win when no one expects it. Humans, they realized, were forces to be reckoned with, not weak, not fragile, but clever, strong, and resilient. Lyra's people celebrated their victory, but she never lost sight of the human at her side. Aiden Cross had changed everything they thought about humanity. He had shown them that strength was not always about size, weapons, or numbers. It was about courage, ingenuity, and the will to survive against impossible odds. As night fell over the capital, Lyra and Aiden stood atop the palace walls, overlooking a city slowly returning to peace. The rebellion was defeated, but the lesson was clear. Humans were not to be underestimated. Aiden looked at the stars, thinking ahead to the challenges that still awaited them. Lyra beside him, she realized that she had not only survived, but had learned the truth about a species long dismissed. Humans were remarkable, capable of feats that others could only dream of. And she knew, with certainty, that the galaxy would never forget what had happened here today. Dawn light bathed the Zelari capital in a golden glow, reflecting off the gleaming towers and spires. The city had endured the rebellion, but scars of battle still marked its streets. Smoke rose from collapsed buildings, and the streets were littered with debris, yet there was a sense of hope in the air, a feeling that life, order, and peace would return. Princess Lyra walked beside Captain Aiden Cross, surveying the city she had fought to reclaim. He had been with her through every step, guiding her, protecting her, and proving to the galaxy the true strength of humans. Lyra paused atop the steps of the palace, looking at Aiden. "We've done it," she said softly. "The rebellion is over. Even so, we've changed the game. Humans have shown their strength, and your people know it now. Adapt, survive, and overcome." Even the Zelari soldiers, trained and disciplined, were impressed by the human-s resourcefulness. At one point, a group of soldiers struggled to lift a massive barricade blocking a strategic road. Aiden stepped forward without hesitation. With a single, well-timed effort, he moved the heavy structure into position. The soldiers stared, astonished. He did that alone?" one whispered. Lyra caught their expressions and smiled. "This is what humans are capable of," she said. "Strength is not just physical, it is courage, intelligence, and the will to act when it matters most." They spoke in hushed tones, clearly impressed and perhaps even intimidated by the efficiency with which the city had been defended. Lyra stepped forward, addressing them with quiet authority. "Thanks to the efforts of our loyalists and one human, Captain Aiden Cross, we have survived. His courage, skill, and ingenuity have ensured that our people live to see another day." Aiden stood silently beside Lyra, letting her words carry their weight. He did not seek recognition. He did not desire praise. His satisfaction came from results, survival, protection, and seeing humans finally respected. After the council adjourned, Lyra and Aiden walked through the palace gardens. The city's citizens had begun to rebuild, cleaning streets, repairing buildings, and assisting the wounded. The air was filled with the hum of activity, and the occasional cheer when a small victory in reconstruction was achieved. Lyra watched it all, her heart swelling with pride for her people and gratitude for the human who had made it possible. "You've changed everything," she said, turning to him. "Before, humans were considered weak, clever only in small ways, but you've shown them the truth. They will never doubt humans again. Anyone could do the same if they believed in themselves." Fires of repair crews glowed like embers in the twilight, and the streets were filled with citizens beginning to reclaim their lives. The rebellion's shadow was lifting, replaced with hope and determination. Aiden spoke quietly. "The galaxy will remember today. Humans have a way of surprising others when they're underestimated. Your people now understand that. They will respect humans, not as weak creatures, but as a force capable of shaping outcomes beyond expectation." Loyal soldiers approached, followed by council members. They stopped respectfully at a distance, watching the two figures on the balcony. Lyra raised her hand, addressing them. "Today marks a new era, not just for the Zelari Empire, but for humanity as well. Humans are no longer outsiders, weak and underestimated. We have seen their courage, their ingenuity, and their strength. Captain Aiden Cross has proven this beyond doubt. Not through ambition or desire, but through action, courage, and determination. That was enough." As night deepened, Lyra and Aiden returned to the palace chambers. The princess removed her ceremonial cloak and sat near a large window overlooking the city. "You could stay," she said softly, her eyes thoughtful. "Help rebuild, train our forces, guide my people. You've earned a place here." Humans thrived because they did not cling to comfort or safety. They moved forward, faced challenges, and shaped their destiny. She felt gratitude and admiration, knowing that humanity had just proven itself in the most dramatic way possible. In the following days, the city slowly returned to life. Streets were repaired, barricades dismantled, and civilians returned to their homes. Soldiers continued to patrol, ensuring the rebels had no chance to regroup. Throughout it all, Aiden moved among them, offering guidance, teaching human techniques and helping integrate clever strategies into their defense. Lyra observed him closely. Every action, every decision, every quick adjustment reinforced what she had begun to understand. Human strength was not just in muscles or weapons. It was in adaptability, courage, and the ability to see solutions others missed. Humans could survive, thrive, and even triumph where others would fail. One afternoon, Lyra walked through the palace gardens, noticing the children playing among the newly planted flowers. Soldiers trained nearby, practicing maneuvers that incorporated the tactics Aiden had taught them. Lyra's heart swelled with hope and pride. Her empire had survived not because of sheer power alone, but because of courage, intelligence, and the human spirit that had guided them. Aiden joined her quietly, watching the children. "They'll remember this day," he said softly. "Not just the rebellion, but the lesson humans have taught them. We're underestimated far too often, but that's our advantage. We survive and we rise no matter what others expect. Not just by my people, but throughout the empire. Humans deserve respect, and you've earned it." She thought of all that had happened, the ambushes, the battles, the clever maneuvers, the courage in the face of impossible odds. She thought of the human who had protected her, who had led them to victory not through brute force, but through wit, skill, and an indomitable will. "Humans are incredible," she whispered. Aiden glanced at her, a faint smile on his face. "We always have been. We just wait for the right moment to show it." Lyra knew that the future held challenges yet unseen, but she also knew that with humans like Aiden in the universe, hope and ingenuity would always prevail. The princess looked at the human beside her, realizing that she had placed her trust wisely. Aiden had proven that humans could surpass expectations, protect those in need, and turn impossible situations into victories. The galaxy had underestimated humanity, but that mistake would not be repeated. Aiden crossed his arms, gazing at the horizon. He thought of the battles fought, the lives saved, and the lessons taught. Humanity had survived, once again proving that ingenuity, courage, and resilience could overcome any challenge. And as long as humans remained underestimated, they would always have the edge, the power to survive, adapt, and triumph. Princess Lyra turned to him, determination shining in her eyes. "The Empire will remember this day, and humanity will be honored as it deserves. You've shown us all what humans are capable of. That's all any of us can do,"